I did Lincoln Center. I've never been officially on a Broadway stage, like one of the, but we did, Lincoln Center was really, really fun. That was a very big deal for us. There was a play called The Taking of Miss Jane, I think it's 1975, and it won the Drama Critics Circle Award in New York, and it was a play written by a writer named Ed Bullins, and it was about the 60s. It was about sort of racism, and it was very controversial, very funny, and I actually had some nudity in it, which was really weird. Which I probably shouldn't be talking about, but I will anyway. So, I mean, no, it was really, I mean, it was, and it was integral to the, it was definitely a part of, first of all, it was a part of the 60s. Everybody walked around with tattoos on their breasts and like just walking through, you know, festivals, and it was really very much a part of the culture. So, because we had a long conversation about it, but there was this moment, because we were in circle and theater in the round, and there was the front row was as close as you guys are, really, and the bed, it wasn't really a bed, it was just a platform, really, that I was on with the other actor. And I remember that first moment where I'm supposed to take my shirt off, and it was like it was like I knew all these people, and you can't break your, you don't break your fourth wall at all. And it was quite an experience, but a phenomenal play. It was very well received, and so that was the closest I really got to Broadway. Chelsea Theater Center, American Place Theater, oh my gosh, the Manhattan Theater Club, all these places that are now huge theaters now were little beginning theaters. It was the best. My time in New York doing theater was totally part of my fabric. It's. I really am serious about what I do. I think that's the other thing. It's different sometimes when you come out to Hollywood and, everybody's kind of got an agenda and all these young, I hate to say it, but a lot of young actors who are like, look at me and what are you going to get me and how much am I getting? And, I hear it and I go, get over yourself or go get another kind of job. But, and they work, and some of them are wonderful actors. It's not, but I just come from a different seed than that. I just do. I was this kid who used to take all her clothes out of her closet and make up stories with my stuffed animals when I was like 4 and 5 years old. And my mother would come in, and she of course would have to hang everything up because I couldn't reach the thing. I would just pull them all down. And I'm a storyteller, and I guess that's my love of what I do. And, I feel very much in a place where I can encourage other people too, no matter how old or young you are, if there's something you really enjoy the most, really try and turn that into something for yourself. And it's up to us. It is up to us. There's good fortune, and it's great if you have a family that supports what you're doing emotionally and or financially. That's all great stuff. But don't give up on what you love, because life is really, it's make me cry, but life is really short. I don't know how the hell I got here. I really don't. It's like mysterious. It's totally mysterious. So and you don't know that when you're, you don't know that when you're your guy's age. It's just, so that's part of the beauty of having gotten older, and I'm really embracing that in a way that most women in Hollywood aren't allowed to do. I feel different. I do. I feel like I have a different career. And I have on my Facebook page, I hope I live till 115 and still know my lines. So I hope I do, but I hope all of you do too, whatever it is that you want to be doing. And that gives you longevity too. It makes you healthy.
How did you get here in Wizard World, Philadelphia?
I don't know. You're past that. I have no idea, to be honest. I think it was, I really don't know. I don't know who. Does anybody know how I got here?
Where am I?
Where am I? No, but, it was figured out by, I'm doing press. I was in Detroit because I'm from Detroit, so we did a whole press junket in Detroit a couple days ago. Then I came to Philadelphia, and I guess it was coincidental in a way, that I was here during the festival, and so, and then they had this award, which is like so sweet. It really is. It's just, I'm so flattered, and I was going to say, I'm proud to be a mother. I do have a son, and I guess being God's mother or godmother is a pretty good place to be. So it's a very lovely tribute, and I totally will, you know, I'm proud to accept it. So I mean, I was at WonderCon at the Anaheim Stadium in LA. We did Jason Blum's company did a panel, you know, for the films they do Sinister, because they're really responsible for the Insidious franchise. Jason Blum is a very interesting, wonderful, and smart guy, and he really knows. It's interesting. He also was one of the producers on The Normal Heart, which is this very award-winning, beautiful story that Mark Ruffalo was in, that was on HBO, and was a play in New York before that. I mean, he's not just a horror guy. He's a totally brilliant, a brilliant producer, you know, and so he's orchestrated. So we did that in Anaheim, and I don't think that had anything to do with me coming here, but it was a similar kind of experience, you know. But this is more fun. You guys are better.
How about Monster Mania though?
And Monster Mania, yeah, I did that to promote the film as well. I'm not doing really conventions. I'm not so interested in that right now. I hope we're too busy working.
I've always been sort of impressed in how your career is really, it's just going so strong. It really continues to grow, and I love so many of your films, like Detroit Rock City was a lot of fun.
I just worked with Adam Rifkin again on a wonderful movie with Penn and Teller that's called Director's Cut. You could keep your eyes out for it.
So the question I have for you is, Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorite all-time movies, and I'm curious, when you were making the film and working with Wes Craven and Robert Englund and Johnny Depp, did you think that it would be as big as it became through the whole series and still today?
No, they really do. You know, I think in general, you make a movie, and sometimes it's got a lot of hype around it, that it's going to be, you know, we're gonna. Sorry, I really am emotional. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. To be really honest. But anyway, I think, and actually there's a whole, I don't know how many of you know this, but Nightmare on Elm Street was produced by New Line Cinema, which was started by my brother, Bob Shaye, in 1968
Yes.
in his apartment in New York on 13th Street and 2nd Avenue, in his living room. He had one employee. And he used to joke about it. And Bob, my brother's an extraordinary guy. I mean, he's a Columbia Law graduate and had a Fulbright scholarship to Sweden. He decided to start this. He was always a photographer and very interested in film. And he started this company as a distribution company first. And then later they got into producing. So and they were always, I used to joke with him, his hands were always freezing because the company was always failing. We're going under, it's all done. We have 4 employees, now we're finished. And long story short, it was really Wes Craven who came to him with this movie. And there's a wonderful book called Never Sleep Again that actually just been released. It's got tons of interviews with Wes and with my brother. About the making of the first Nightmare on Elm Street and all the conflict and all the, we don't like the ending and who's gonna, then my father came in and was like helping with the ending. I mean, it was like, there was a whole bunch of stuff around it. And Johnny Depp was his first movie. I actually sat on the lawn with him and a guy named, I forget who Jeff is now, like, I don't know what he does. A guy who worked at a little shop in LA called Maya, which was a jewelry store, and Jeff on his off nights was a coach, was an acting coach. And literally we were all sitting on the lawn and Jeff was like talking to Johnny, I think about the role, you know, about doing this part and helping him with the character. So it was really the beginnings of a lot of things, and I got in it because my brother said to Wes Craven, put my sister in your movie. If you want to be in it, make this movie, put my sister in it. And then of course he pretended he had nothing to do with it, and it was mean to me anyway. So, but anyhow, and it does have a lot of, there was stuff I didn't even know, where I guess the one scene where the room turns upside down, there was a big mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen. They had a whole nother thing planned, and the mechanism went crazy. And suddenly all the blood came down at once, and it was not supposed to. Or it's actually in the book, I think. I don't even know the whole story, but it was it's one of the great, you know, talk about accidents in filmmaking. It was kind of like the dog licking me and something about Mary. That was never planned either.
You went with it.
If you don't go, that's a trick as an actor. You better go with it. Because those totally become the golden moments. You know, and not to cut from Nightmare on Elm Street to Mary, but but literally, there is that moment where you go, oh, just hang in, you know, hang in. So, I know that when and no one's really still to this day knows why Nightmare on Elm Street became such a crazy, there were articles written about it in the New York Times and about the psychology of this horrible, you know, burn victim, awful guy. And, you know, testimony to Robert Englund, again, he brought wit and humor and sinisterism. There's such a word, I just need one up, to the character that was endearing in some bizarre way. And it's still, I don't get it. You know, you see people running around with their little kid this big dressed up as Freddy Krueger. You go take them home and get them Sesame Street on tape or something. You know? But it's really, it became an institution, as we all know. And then, what are there, like 8 of them, 9 of them, 12 of them? I was in the first and the last. I actually have a little role in the last one, too. And I think also my brothers and put my sister. He's really funny. We do have a very interesting friendship and relationship, because I became an actress before he even started New Line. He was, in the law world, but not for long. So I think we all, when producers put that kind of any kind of money into a movie, and you spend all that energy and chaos trying to put it all together, you always hope it's going to work, but you just really don't know, because there's some magical thing that happens between audience and story and timing and what's going on in the world and what's been out and what has not been out and what people need. Entertainment is a very interesting thing on that level too. It's like what clicks and what doesn't, because it's not always what's good that clicks. But it's like just something clicks and you go and more people go, and I love my profession. I'm so excited to be here, you guys, for real. I honestly don't know how it all happened. It's totally magic.
Yeah.
This is real magic.
How did you prepare for an intense scene, like something really scary?
I have techniques as an actress. I mean, I've studied. I mean, I know my job. And I know how to get there, and it doesn't always work the way I want it to. But again, even then, you got to be able to allow. It's really being that thing about being in the moment, which you hope you live your life like that, but none of us do because there's too much static. And the thing that's interesting about filmmaking to me also is, even though there's a lot going on, it's controlled chaos. There's like, you kind of know what, where you are. What you're supposed to wear and what you're supposed to say and who you are as the character. And then within that, it can be interior chaos, because you can set yourself up. I mean, your emotions are I find them fascinating, because you can't always, you have to be able to focus on what you want, what you are, and what you want. I mean, I have little tricks I do for myself. I'm not one of those actors that can just turn it on, like I walk out and I really got to think about what I'm going to do. And I remember Rose Byrne, who was totally one of my favorite people ever, and a brilliant actress, both comedic, dramatic. She can do it all, and she's the most gorgeous thing you ever laid your eyes on. I mean, I used to like. I would really sit there and go, is that are you really? Is that really? Is it real? And but she and Patrick Wilson in the first Insidious had a really great friendship, and they used to tell jokes, and they were both hilarious. And she literally be sitting there kicking her legs up in the air and laughing herself into the next world, and then they would call action, and the tears would just pour. She just could do it. She just could do it. I can get close to that, but it's really focus. It's focus and imagination. You build a case for yourself. Insidious 3, which I'm so proud to be in this film. I think it's the scariest of all the movies, and it's scary in ways you're not going to expect. That's part of the thing I really love about it. And it was a very emotional. Lee wrote me a beautiful character, because it's really the beginning of Elise. It's not the Elise you see. Actually, this movie really comes first, before the first and the second.
Really?
So yeah, it's an origin movie, they're calling it, and it takes place in 2008. It's before the Lambert family. and you meet Elise first in a very bad place, and in her life. And Lee wrote this beautiful, really, arc for the character, which leads her into meeting. She meets Specs and Tucker in this film. She doesn't know them at all in the beginning of the movie, and it was a very emotional film for me, and the environment we were in was very dark. We were on stage most of the time. It was a really dark place and cold and a lot of smoke. You know, they use that sort of artificial smoke, which to make atmosphere for the further. That's when you walk into the further. So it was not. It was hard for me to go home because I was exhausted. We would have long days. I mean, they'd be as long as 16, 17-hour days, and I always got lost going home. It's like, it was inevitable. There was one freeway thing. I always ended up on the wrong end of the thing, and I knew where I was. It was almost like I felt like, don't go there, but okay, I'm gonna go home now, okay? And it was easy. To answer your question, actually, on some levels, it was easy for me to call up everything because I was so vulnerable. I made myself very, very, very vulnerable during the shoot, and I hope you like it.
How was it for you from transitioning from the first film, second film, all the way to the third one? Playing the same actress, but she's really different in the second one from the first one.
It's storytelling, really, like because when we did the first one, actually I met with Lee and Angus Sampson, who plays Tucker, and we talked about, because as an actress you try and build your character, even if the audience there's no lines or the audience doesn't see anything, it informs the lines that you have, and then it informs the scenes, because you have a daughter, so this girl reminds you of your daughter, or you have no daughter, you have no children, so your relationship is going to be different with that person. And so this was, being a prequel, it was wonderful, because it was really filling in literally the spaces that I had sort of made up answers to in the first one, like who was Elise before she meets Specs and Tucker, what is our relationship? This filled it in. So it was a very literal, a literal story that we were telling, but still the same person. It was really fun. It was totally fun.
The question what I was going to ask you is if you ever saw Insidious 2 with an audience, only because when your character has like the hero kind of moment in Insidious 2, the audience reaction is like amazing. I mean, you don't even see that kind of thing in a lot of movies now. So it's almost like they realize that they love your character so much that this was a good idea for the third movie.
I'm so flattered. I mean, I'm the most unlikely hero. I mean, totally. When you think about it, when you think about other movies who are the heroes, it ain't me.
Right.
And there must be, this one guy said something the other day in one of the interviews we had, which he said, we always feel safe when Elise shows up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what an interesting thing that is, and I wonder if my son feels like that. But you wonder what is that I'm, and I think it's my real affection for people and for the dilemmas we all have. I really try and stay grounded in terms of this world is nuts right now, and the chaos is more than I can. Petting my dog is my favorite thing to do. Because you can just pet your dog. So I'm very grateful. And Lee said to me, and James too, they said, we're making you the face of the franchise. And I thought, are you sure you really want to do that?
About time.
And they said, yeah, we do. They said, because you're the one that people really are relating to. And then Lee said too, he says, you're the hero. So you'll see in this one too, there's a wonderful transition of meeting Elise when she's at her lowest point. And then what happens? It was so much fun to do, even though it was exhausting. It was a hard shoot for me. And I think because of the emotionality, really. That's exhausting. But I loved every minute of it too. Cool. I hope you love every minute of it.
We can say it.
Go see it. Do this at a theater near you. Bring all your friends and sit on their laps and scream.
Cool.